And let me just begin with a welcome on behalf of Mickey Ibarra and Associates. We are delighted to have you at this Latino Leaders Luncheon Series event once again. This event really is intended to simply serve as a platform for our leaders to come together, for our leaders to talk to each other. Now, sometimes I'm reminded that common sense is so uncommon. And this is a platform really for us to come together, to be with each other, to talk to each other, to learn more about each other, and for also an opportunity to hear from one of our many, many leaders in this country. And we are so honored that the Attorney General of the United States, Alberto Gonzales, will be joining us shortly. And we hope he'll be bringing his wife, Rebecca, with him also. Because the truth is, all of you that are married in this room understand this already, but those that aren't, let me just explain it. The Attorney General's staff didn't immediately get how important this was for him to be here. But I'll tell you this, Rebecca got it. And she was very, very, very helpful to us. This is also, of course, an opportunity made possible by the generous support of two major corporations in America. This is such a refreshing departure from what we normally are involved with in Washington. That is, you write a check and you get to attend a lunch or a dinner, if you're lucky. So this is a wonderful opportunity to have an event where we don't even have to pay to be here. And that is possible because of Verizon and because of the Coca-Cola Company. So let's give them a cheer. Wow. And now please join me in welcoming the Attorney General of the United States, Alberto Gonzales, and his wife, Rebecca. Alberto and Rebecca, I was just mentioning to our guests, and by the way, we have a full house. That's exactly what we aim for, a full house. I was mentioning to our guests, Rebecca and Alberto, how grateful we are for your presence today. Those of us that have served in public office and those of us that haven't understand how busy Washington is. And we're glad that you've chosen to spend some time with us today. I remember meeting the Attorney General. I remember it like yesterday. He was the Secretary of State of Texas. This was a NALEO conference in Dallas. I was representing President Clinton. I remember him impressing me so much that day as we both addressed the audience. Little did I realize years later, in 2000, when Rebecca and Alberto requested a West Wing tour, that they would actually show up at the West Wing to be measuring the drapes for his new office. But before we hear from Alberto, we want to give our sponsors an opportunity to deliver brief remarks. We also want to have an invocation, a blessing on the food. We are delighted, as I said, that both Verizon as well as the Coca-Cola Company are here with us. But before we hear from our sponsors, let me recognize some of our other leaders, because again, one of the purposes of this luncheon is for us to get to know each other better, and for the Attorney General to get a chance to know us better as well. We have Congressman Charlie Gonzalez from the great city of San Antonio here with us. And next to Charlie, I am so delighted we have Supervisor Gloria Molina, the chair of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. We also have with us, this is really a special honor, we have the chairman of the Washoe Nation of Nevada and California, Brian Wallace, here with us today. We have a host of our leadership from the Latino organizations here in Washington and elsewhere, and I want to again acknowledge them and thank them for their presence. We have Esther Aguilera, the president of CHCI. Esther? We also have Yania Cruz, the president and CEO of the National Hispanic Council of Aging. Is she here with us yet? No, okay. Hector Flores, the president of LULAC. Is he here with us yet? Okay. We also, I see Octavio Hinojosa, who's the executive director of the Congressional Hispanic Leadership Institute, with us. But I'll tell you what we do have is Brent Wilkes, the executive director of LULAC, here with us. Brent? We also have Jose Marquez, the president of LISTA. Jose? Manny Miribal, the National Puerto Rican Coalition. Is Manny here? No, I don't see Manny. We also have Alex Nogales, the president of the National Hispanic Media Council, right here. Tom Oliver, the executive director of the National Association of Hispanic Publications. Tom? I know that we have Manny Oliveras here also, who is the president of the National Association of Federal Executives. The man from labor, Jesse Rios, is in the house as well. Jesse? Ivan Roman, the executive director of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists. Here we go, right here. My friend Ken Trujillo, who is the first vice chair of the National Council of La Raza Board of Directors. Ken? Let me just brag on Ken for a minute also. He was just recently awarded the Otley Award, the highest honor that the government of Mexico bestows upon anyone other than a Mexican citizen. And Ken Trujillo, congratulations for that award. We're so proud also to be joined by Reg Weaver, the president of the National Education Association. Reg? Now for some sponsor remarks. While our friend Rudy Becerra of the Coca-Cola Company was unable to be with us, he's got the best excuse I could ever come up with. Olivia, his 9-year-old daughter, it's her birthday today, and he's in Atlanta, where he should be. But I'll tell you this, the Coca-Cola Company is well represented. Frank Ross, Assistant Vice President for Latin Affairs, will deliver remarks for Coke. Before he comes up, though, I just want to mention something because he'd be far too modest to do so. Frank Ross was the captain of the 1980 National Georgia National Champions, by the way, football team, that also included Herschel Walker. Frank?
Buenas tardes, and thank you, Mickey. So I tell Herschel all the time, I said, Herschel, I taught you everything you know, but you're out making millions and I'm selling Coca-Cola. So we both ended up pretty well. But seriously, on behalf of our chairman, Neville Isdale, my colleague, Kerry Simmons, who's hosting our table this afternoon, and the over 50,000 dedicated Coca-Cola employees worldwide, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here this afternoon. It's truly an honor to sponsor an event where you bring together so many quality individuals into one room. At the same time, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank our co-sponsor Verizon and Maria Cruz for co-sponsoring the series again for us this time. I got to commend Mickey Vita, because we were talking out in the lobby earlier today, and he was saying, if it wasn't for the Coca-Cola Company, we wouldn't be able to have these things. I said, Mickey, the fact is, if it wasn't for you, if you didn't have the vision to create the Leaders Luncheon, we wouldn't be here to come together as a group. So Mickey is the one that makes this come together, but I admire. It takes a vision of leadership to make things happen. Now, what else can I say about Mickey? The fact is that he has made so many friends over the years that I kid him that there's only one other Mickey has better name recognition than him, and that Mickey works for Disney. So you're not in bad company. But like you, I look forward to hearing U.S. Attorney General Gonzales speak this afternoon. And I've had the privilege of getting to know he and his lovely wife, Becky, over the last year and a half or so, and they're both just wonderful people. And I think if you've watched Mr. Gonzales' work, he's a man of impeccable values and ethics, and he's a great representative not just for the Latino community, but for our country. And so I look forward to hearing his comments this afternoon. As far as our company, we tend to do a lot of stuff and not really toot our horns. And that's the way our culture and our company is. We feel like our actions speak for themselves. But the Coca-Cola does have a long history of giving back to the communities which it serves. It is part of a thread that makes up the fabric of our business. And as a result, it is a great sense of pride for our employees all over the world to be associated with a company that's done so much to help so many communities, so many people in more countries around the world than probably any other company in history. We look forward to continuing to work with you and other leaders, both in the public and private sector, to strengthen the Latino community. Besides being the right thing to do, at the Coca-Cola Company, we recognize that by having a stronger Latino community, we'll make it a better America. So I hope you enjoy the luncheon today. And Mickey, it's up to you again, buddy. Take care. Thank you.
Before we hear from Verizon, I also want to recognize a wonderful leader in the room. I mentioned Charlie Gonzalez earlier from San Antonio, but I'll tell you, Senator Leticia Van de Putte, all the way from San Antonio with us here today. And let me just brag a little bit about the senator. The past president of the National Hispanic Caucus of State Legislators, and we'll all be gathering next week in Tampa for the annual summit of Hispanic state legislators. But I'll tell you, Leticia Van de Putte is the president-elect of the National Conference of State Legislatures. She will become next year the first Hispanic ever to serve as president of NCSL. Of course, I'm also very grateful for my association with Verizon, who is sponsoring their 4th Latino Leaders Luncheon Series event today. It is my privilege to assist Keith Fulton, Walter White, and others at Verizon. The Hispanic Association on Corporate Responsibility ranked Verizon second among all Fortune 100 companies for their involvement with the Hispanic community, including supplier diversity. Substituting for Bill Barr today on the program to deliver sponsor remarks is Maria Cruz, the Vice President of Verizon Sourcing. Maria?
Thank you so much, Mickey. It's my pleasure to represent Verizon at today's wonderful celebration, celebrating Latino leadership and honoring the U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. All of us at Verizon salute him for his dedication, strong leadership, and vision, as you've heard some other speakers talk about his career and his efforts on behalf of the United States. As the Hispanic family continues to grow nationwide, building and sustaining Hispanic leadership at all levels of the government will be critical. Today, there are roughly 2 million Latino-owned businesses in the U.S., and at Verizon, we are very proud of our work and partnership with many of these businesses. And as the person that leads this effort of supplier diversity, I see a bright future with great potential for Hispanic-owned businesses, as well as for the continued growth of Latino leaders at all levels of government. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to the Coca-Cola Company for being such a great partner as we host the 4th Latino Leaders Luncheon Celebration. And finally, special thank you to the Attorney General for joining us today and making this a very special celebration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria, and again, thank you to the Coca-Cola Company and Verizon for making today's luncheon possible. And now, Councilman Juan Ramos of Philadelphia, who made us all feel so welcome in the city of brotherly love this past summer at the National Council of La Raza Conference, has agreed to offer the blessing on our food. Councilman?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hoy es Día de los Muertos, but the Latino community is alive and very strong on this day that so many of us honor throughout the world wherever Latinos live. So it's also a day that, according to the tradition, the Mexican people are much more, they're much more religious in their celebration of Dia de los Muertos compared to us Puerto Ricans. But I believe the director of the office of the National Puerto Rican Affairs Office is here, right? Señor Batia, is he here? He was here. There he is. I just want to say hello to my colega puertorriqueño. And but one thing we all do is that we remember Tío Pepín and Tío Pancho and Tía Carmen on this day. And some of us still light a candle at night, maybe so they won't show up and remind us of the $10 we might have owed Tío Pepín like I did. But it's to remember them and the example they set for us, particularly those that have led the way for us to be here today. Let us pray. And supper being ended, Jesus rose from supper and laid aside his garments. He took a towel and girded himself. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. On this beautiful afternoon in Washington, let us remember that we're called to serve. We're called to be servant leaders, to serve our neighbor, to serve the poor, and to serve the oppressed, to serve the cause of justice with conviction, con ganas, and faith. Let us pray today for the elevation of the Latino people, a people born of courage and sacrifice, Lord. Lord, shower our brother, el Honorable Attorney General of the United States of America, Alberto Gonzales, with your abundant grace. And bless this food, dear Lord, which we're about to receive. We give you thanks for it. Help us to enjoy it and to enjoy the company at this table. Take care of the poor, especially those who are suffering from hunger. Que Dios les bendiga a todos en el nombre del Padre, del Hijo y del Espíritu Santo.
Now, there are a lot of administration officials in the room, and I want them to know I have not forgotten about them. And we're going to get an opportunity to acknowledge them right after lunch is served. So now, lunch will be served. Thank you. Many of our leaders right here in the room, including Alberto Gonzales and the top Latinos in the Bush administration. Before introducing some of our special guests from the White House and the administration, I want to also mention, of course, Ron Blackburn Moreno, who is with us, the president of Aspira. And in addition, he didn't have enough to do as president of Aspira, so they gave him another title, chairing the National Hispanic Leadership Agenda, and we're delighted to have you here with us, Ron. We also have Jose Antonio Pierino from the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. They just did a wonderful event, I think October 24th, Jose. Yeah. we have a number of federal officials with us. First, Commissioner Roel Campos of the U.S. Security and Exchange Commission. Roel. We also, don't you love a man in uniform, the Surgeon General of the United States, Richard Carmona. We also are so delighted to have with us the Director of the EEOC, Carrie Dominguez. We have several of the White House team here today with us, including Heidi Marquez Smith, Special Assistant to the President for Cabinet Liaison. And any of you that want to know more about Heidi, just look at your Latina Style magazine this month, okay? Also, I believe we have, is Sonia here? Was she able to come? I don't see her here. We also, though, have Dan Garza, the Associate Director of Public Liaison. Thank you, Dan. There are other Bush appointees here, and let's ask them to stand and give them a round of applause. All other Bush administration appointees. I understand, perhaps more than most, the importance of public service, and I do want to express my thanks to all of our appointees in the Bush administration for joining us, but certainly much more importantly, for serving their nation in an attempt to make this a better place for everybody. Before Alberto is introduced by our United States Treasurer, I would like to present, for brief remarks, Regina Montoya, the new CEO of the New America Alliance. She is no stranger to Washington, D.C., having served as the first Director of Intergovernmental Affairs for President Clinton at the White House. You may have forgotten, but she got there years before I showed up. In fact, I remember clearly my first day at my new office in the West Wing. I called Regina Montoya to let her know I was there and to seek her counsel. Please join me in welcoming Regina back to our nation's capital. Regina?
Well, Mickey, what a special treat it is to be with everyone today, and particularly to be with you. And I know Mickey says that he doesn't do this all the time, but I look around and I say, I know, Mickey, you have lunches like this every day. We know what it's like back in Washington. Well, I do want to thank everyone, and it is such an honor to be here with all of you, but to be with our Attorney General, because as Mickey was mentioning his opportunities to meet with the Attorney General many years ago, I first remember meeting the Attorney General back when we were lawyers in corporate law firms back in Texas. There weren't many of us in the corporate law firms at that time, and I think we all looked to each other for the strength and support, and our Attorney General was one of those that, for all of us in the community who were in the law firms, working with judges, looked to him as one of the mentors and one of those that guided us. And even though I'm actually a few years older, and this is the child prodigy that we have in front of us with the Attorney General, we all look to him for that kind of guidance and support, and really appreciated that. But I think when I listened to the invocation today from Councilman Ramos, and he was talking about the leaders in this room coming together and giving back, that is what the New America Alliance is doing. And it is a group of over 100 people who have come together who want to make a difference. Latino leaders, the leaders in the business community, leaders in many areas, and entrepreneurs who come together and want to make a difference. And they have come together, founded in 1999 in this organization that tries to make sure that Latinos are represented in every aspect of the business world, every aspect that we can affect public policy and make those changes. Just last week, one of our great events was a Wall Street Summit that many of you, as I look around this room, attended, and we thank you. Sponsors as well who were there, who helped. Mickey, who was there, Royal Campos, and of course, we're going to hear from our treasurer in a moment, who was there, lending their support to the issues that really affect us. When we think about our community, I think one of the best ways to describe it is this way: as Latinos go, so goes America. And when you look at the business community, when you look at our educational community, that is what we're trying to do. Now, Mickey also mentioned to me that this was going to be much like the Academy Awards. The music goes up when the 3 minutes end. So I know that the music will be coming up in a moment. But I do want to just leave you with this thought, and that is, the Latino community is one that, when we see our fabulous friends from California, Texas today, 1 in 3 Latinos, 1 in 3 of each Texan, of each Californian is now Latino. When you think of the business community, the entrepreneurial spirit in our community growing at 3 times the rate of the rest of the community, it is important that we all give back in this area. So I am delighted to be back in Washington with the New America Alliance, and it really is a special treat to be with all of you. And Mickey, what a lunch you put on. Thank you.
I love Regina. Boy, isn't she a breath of fresh air? Thank you, Regina. The Honorable Ana Escobedo Cabral is the 42nd Treasurer of the United States, the second oldest position in our federal government. Confirmed by the Senate on November 20th, 2004, Ana is the 5th Latina to serve as Treasurer since 1971, and has also served with distinction in senior leadership positions at the Smithsonian Institution, HACER, and the U.S. Judiciary Committee. Please welcome the Treasurer of the United States, the money maker, Ana Escobedo Cabral.
Thank you. It is truly an honor and a privilege for me to be able to introduce this week's Latino Leaders Luncheon speaker, a very dear friend and colleague in this Bush administration. It's not a small task to introduce a gentleman who has a laundry list of accomplishments. In fact, I had to review a 10-page, single-spaced resume and was told to do it in 30 seconds. Now that's a difficult task. But Al, I'm hoping to do this well enough to earn a spot as clerk for you sometime in the future. Now, so let me give you the highlights. Of course, Alberto Gonzalez is the 80th Attorney General of the United States. He was sworn into office on February 3rd, 2005. He held significant positions, including counsel to the President of the United States, a Supreme Court Justice for the Texas State Supreme Court, and a number of statewide offices in the state of Texas. He was born in San Antonio, but raised in Houston, where he practiced law before entering public service. He is a veteran of the Air Force. He attended the Air Force Academy, a number of Texas public schools, Rice University, and Harvard Law School. Now, what his resume doesn't list for you are the qualities that I think I most admire in our Attorney General. His warmth, his humility, his devotion to family, his good heart that beats in sync with his brilliant mind, his commitment to public service, and to our great nation. So yes, I have the privilege of introducing arguably the second most powerful man in the country. But he still couldn't get those Astros to finish the World Series. Nonetheless, it's my great privilege and pleasure to introduce Attorney General Alberto Gonzales.
Thank you.
I want to begin by telling you how delighted I am to be here and to see so many friends and colleagues, and it's a wonderful event. And I want to thank you, Mickey, for the invitation, and for the sponsors. Thank you for hosting this event. I think it's always good to showcase the brilliance and the talent of the Hispanic community, and this is a wonderful event. Anna, thank you for that very kind introduction. I always try to keep the introductions down to 30 seconds if at all possible, and you were right on. I also want to thank Anna and Victor for their daughter, Raquel, who works in my office as my assistant. And she is really doing a remarkable job. Anna talked about the Houston Astros. Like the president, I am a big baseball fan. And for many Houstonians, this year did mark the end of 44 years of hope and agony as we struggled about our Houston Astros reaching the World Series. I spent a lot of time, as some of you may have the past week, watching the World Series. I even got the chance to be in Houston for Game 3. You might remember that was a game that lasted 14 innings until nearly 1:30 in the morning, and I was there to the bitter end. It was special to be at the first World Series game played in the state of Texas. But I was disappointed that I couldn't stay for Game 4 the following night when they introduced the Latino Legends team on the field before the game. And in retrospect, I'm glad that I didn't have to watch the White Sox celebrate on my team's field. But it would have been incredible, think about it, to see heroes such as Juan Marichal, Rod Carew, and Fernando Venezuela line up with today's Latino stars such as Alex Rodriguez, Albert Pujols, and Pedro Martinez. Now, I suspect that sometime during the ceremony, each and every one of the players thought about the one person who couldn't attend the ceremony, Roberto Clemente, the great Pittsburgh Pirates right fielder who died in a plane crash delivering supplies to needy victims of an earthquake in Nicaragua. Clemente embodied the term legend, and he paved the way for names like Rivera and Ramirez and Rodriguez to play the game. And Clemente's son represented him among the outfielders that night, and he commented that, quote, "This is a great day for Latinos in baseball." But when I look at this group today, I'm proud to say this is a great day for Latinos everywhere. More and more young Latinos across the country have role models that they can turn to for inspiration, and not just on the baseball diamond, but in virtually every field of human endeavor. It's important that we strive for professional excellence in the sciences, in the media, in the law, in business, and as community activists. Already in the short history of the Latino Leaders Luncheon, you've heard from an all-star cast, and I am privileged to be in their company. I am Hispanic. I am Latino. I say that with a great deal of pride. I love my family. I believe in God, and I am grateful for my country, the United States of America, which has allowed me to live the American dream. I served in our armed forces because I believe the freedoms and opportunities available in America are worth defending and ultimately worth dying for. I am proud of our beautiful culture, the language, the foods, the traditions. We are alike in these ways, and alike, I suspect, in pursuing prosperity and opportunity for all Hispanics. We all want to see our kids get an education. We want everyone to be able to own their own home or business. We all want an equal opportunity to pursue a dream. We will differ, of course, in how best to achieve these broad objectives, much like we may have a different history or a different heritage due to geography, much like we have different tastes in food, our dialects, our religion, and even our politics may be different. But in the end, there is more that binds us. We can all agree, for example, that too many of our children are getting into trouble and dropping out of school. We can all agree that the future leadership of our community is at risk. And the key, it seems to me, is to focus our energy, to direct our priorities, and to engage in a meaningful debate with clarity of purpose, but a discussion that is respectful and is tolerant of dissenting views. We may be from different ends of the political spectrum, but we enjoy a cultural tie that cannot be broken. I am often asked by people, what is it like to be the first Hispanic Attorney General? And I tell them, and I say this, I've said this in several speeches recently, but I think it bears repeating, that I am the son of a poor cotton picker and construction worker, that my parents never finished grade school, and I am the Attorney General of the United States. I tell them that I know what it's like to face a life with few opportunities, with nothing more than a heart full of hope, a mind full of dreams, and a willingness to work hard. I tell them that I am the Attorney General for all Americans, but I know that some take great pride in the fact that the son of Mexican-American migrant workers serves as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. Now, President Bush also takes great pride in that fact, and I am not the only Hispanic leader in this administration. When President Bush looks around the table at a cabinet meeting, he also sees Carlos Gutierrez, our Commerce Secretary. When he surveys the federal agencies, he sees names like Richard Carmona and Gary Vasquez and Hector Barreto and Ana Cabral, Kerry Dominguez, and many others. The President has surrounded himself with public servants who are qualified and who represent the important diversity of the American people. He's also applied these principles in making nominations for federal judicial appointments, a task that I worked on personally with him as White House counsel. I know the President well. Diversity at all levels of government is as important to him as it is to you. And it was a great privilege to help the President select a diverse group of qualified nominees who share his judicial philosophy. Let me talk a little bit about our recent Supreme Court nominee. Judge Sam Alito understands that there is no Hispanic Constitution, there is no African American Constitution, there is no white Constitution. There is just one Constitution for all Americans. Judge Alito has been on the bench for 15 years, and he's argued in front of the Supreme Court 12 times. He is well known for his fairness and his character and his commitment to the rule of law. During his 30 years of public service, much of which was spent at the Department of Justice, Judge Alito has earned a reputation for excellence that, quite frankly, few in this country can equal. But one of the great things about this process is that you don't have to take my word for this. Listen to his words as he responds to questions in his confirmation hearings. The Senate and the American public will learn more about Judge Alito's qualifications and his approach to judging. And so I ask you and others to reserve judgment and give him an opportunity to show why he would be good for the court and for the country. Judge Alito, like many of you, is the product of the immigrant dream, and he will bring his unique experiences and background to the Supreme Court, just as I have brought mine to my time as Attorney General. I've noticed over the course of my first months as Attorney General that my family's personal story has given me a unique appreciation for the challenges faced by many Americans. And this past weekend, I spoke to a group of Latino law enforcement officers, and I told them this story about a veteran deputy from the Los Angeles Police Department's anti-gang unit. It was a story about a man named Deputy Ortiz who went to work early on Friday, June 23rd, as he often did, in order to get a jump on a street gang investigation. The 35-year-old deputy had been with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for 15 years. He was a 5-year veteran of his department's anti-gang task force, and he had just returned from his honeymoon. Deputy Ortiz was going door to door, conducting interviews in a gang-plagued neighborhood. At 3 p.m., he knocked on the door of a house and was checking IDs when someone shot him in the head from point-blank range. As L.A. Sheriff Lee Baca described it, this was an assassination of a deputy. It was a sudden attack that gave the deputy no chance. The alleged gunman is Jose Luis Orozco, a suspected gang member. When Sheriff Baca spoke to the press about the murder, he printed out Orozco's rap sheet, and it was 5 feet long. The investigation that Deputy Ortiz was conducting on the day that he died was part of a broader effort to reclaim the small community of Hawaiian Gardens from gang intimidation, drug sales, and violence. Deputy Ortiz sacrificed his life to do his duty. And it struck me in recounting the story that everyone involved was Hispanic. A brave Hispanic deputy, a positive Hispanic leader in Sheriff Baca, and unfortunately, a young Hispanic already lost to the dangerous life of guns and drugs and gangs. And it's a telling example both of the progress we've made and the long distance we have yet to travel. Gangs are a growing problem for the Hispanic community, and we all know it. Gangs wipe out the dreams of our children, and they cost us future leaders. I have directed my U.S. attorneys around the country to work with partners at the federal, state, and local levels to stop the spread of gangs and curb the rampant violence from gang activity. As the chief law enforcement officer of the country, my official role in responding to gangs and troubled youth is in leading investigations and promoting prosecutions. But as a father, that is not where I want to be. We need to get to these kids, our kids, before they join gangs, before they drop out of school, before they get into trouble. Education and prevention are as important as enforcement, and the department works to share necessary resources and training so that the hopes of our kids are not extinguished. That American dream, preserving that dream, is the reason that so many immigrants, millions every year, come to this country in search of a better life for their families. Now, recently, the President reiterated his vision for a comprehensive immigration reform program. And the President outlined a number of steps to strengthen security along our borders and to provide legal options for people who want to stay in the United States to work temporarily. I am a product, like virtually all of you, of the immigrant dream. And so I understand how important it can be for people looking to provide for their families. The President understands that too. He knows that family values, for example, do not stop at the Rio Grande River. He knows that immigrants have formed an important part of the American fabric of our society, and that America has a wonderful and long tradition of having open arms and welcoming people from other countries, hoping to come to America simply to pursue a dream. But the President and I also know, being from Texas, that the security of our citizens depends in part on our ability to control the border. We need to know who's coming into this country and why they're coming here. And with the temporary worker program, fewer people will try to sneak in unlawfully to work. And that means our enforcement efforts can focus on catching drug smugglers and terrorists and gun runners. And today, Homeland Security Secretary Mike Chertoff is announcing a new Secure Borders initiative. In fact, he's making the announcement right now in my hometown of Houston. The Secure Borders initiative is going to increase our ability to gain what Secretary Chertoff calls operational control on our borders. This is a new program which will provide additional resources and technologies at our borders. It'll make our country safer from the threat of terrorism. The Secure Border Initiative will also work hand in hand with the temporary worker program, again, with the goal of curbing illegal criminal activity and clearing a path for illegal work in the United States. This is a very complicated issue. It's generated a great deal of passion here in Washington and around our communities, quite frankly, amongst our state leaders who are struggling to provide services to folks in their communities. As leaders, we need your reasoned voice in this debate about immigration. On this issue and many, many others that confront our community, we need your leadership. And as we work to ensure the hope and the opportunity of America for every citizen, I appreciate your ongoing efforts to nurture the Hispanic community, especially as role models for young Hispanics. It gives me such great pleasure and joy to see an assembly of Hispanic leaders like this. It gives me great hope for the future of our community. And I will tell you that I will do everything I can to work with you to ensure that the American dream remains a reality, a possibility for all of us, for our children and for future generations of children. So I close by simply saying I hope that God continues to bless you and your families. May He continue to guide all of your decisions and give you wisdom in addressing the challenges that confront you and your families. And may He continue to bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
I think our Attorney General is a wonderful reminder that it's nice to be important, and it's important to be nice. Thank you, Alberto, and thank you to Rebecca for being here with us today. Mickey Ibarra and Associates expects to announce the Latino Leaders Luncheon Series calendar for 2006 early next year, along with our corporate sponsors and our first guest. We are intending to move this event to a quarterly event starting in 2006, right here at the St. Regis Hotel. We are committed to making this series the premier Latino leadership event in Washington, and next year we expect to feature Latino leaders from entertainment, from the arts and the sports, as well as our political and appointed officials. I want to mention that the NEA has asked me to remind all of you in the room that they are hosting a reception to welcome the National Council of La Raza to the neighborhood. NCLR, the Raul Izaguirre building, is just about a half a block away from the headquarters of the NEA, just right here on 16th Street. All of you are invited to join the NEA in welcoming NCLR right at 16th and M Street at 5:30 to 8 p.m. this Friday. I also want to just take a moment to introduce my team to you. It is Mickey Ibarra and Associates. I have a high standard for those that work with me. They've got to be at least twice as smart as me in order that we can get it right at least half the time. Enrique Cortez is our event manager. Enrique. We also have Michelle Mingus with us, my associate, Michelle. We also have David Ramirez with us. David. And we also have Desiree Bayonet. Desiree? Now, this will be the last event, unfortunately, that I believe that Desiree is going to be able to be with us for some time, but I just want to mention how proud I am of her and why. She came to me probably a month ago, and she is the one that works with me, poor little thing, every single day, a moment in my office. And she came to me to say that she has received a calling that she has accepted, and that is to the Peace Corps as a volunteer. I'll tell you, a proud graduate of George Washington University, and now making a commitment of 27 months of her young life. She will be stationed in Senegal. For those that are geographically challenged, the most western African nation on the west coast of Africa, Senegal, for 27 months. And I'll tell you, her parents are here today too, and I'd like them to stand. Where are her parents? Right here. I'll tell you this, all the parents in the room, I hope you agree. I think the best it gets as a parent is observing your children embrace values that you hold so dear. And to give 27 months of your life to help the world be a better place, I don't think it gets much better than that. So thank you, Desiree. Again, I want to thank Alberto and Rebecca for joining us today, for sharing their story. I also want to thank, of course, the Coca-Cola Company and Verizon for their sponsorship, and all of you for attending. It is 1:30, and we're out of here. Thank you.